What's up, Blazies? It's Casey Ariel, founder of Blaze Group and your host of Blaze Group Radio. I will be talking about the intersections of Black womanhood, entrepreneurship, news on the culture, and healing as we climb. I launched Blaze Group after spending a decade in corporate America structuring multi-billion-dollar loans for large tech firms, but never once working on a deal team with another Black woman. I left to take world-class knowledge to the streets. Blaze means building leaders and accepting zero excuses, and we go beyond the bare minimum. More than solutions, we create lifelines that help Black women become as limitless as they feel. Snuggle up to this episode. May it feel as safe and nourishing as Big Mama's house did. Hey family, it is Tuesday, August the 6th, and I'm so happy to be tapping in with you again. For those who are watching me on video, I am in my real founder fit, man. This is the mode that I show up in to be very comfortable and grounded. So you get to see that for real. I have some exciting things to talk about today. One will be about how Blaze has essentially reshaped itself to stand more purposefully in our zone of genius, so that I can stand in my zone of genius and really tactically hit the areas of change, progress, reparative, innovation, and more, with greater precision and with heightened levels of community and less hierarchy and more circular decision making, more circular creativity, more circular partnership. So I'll get into that towards the end of this episode. These changes will mean that I need to change the intro to this show, so that is coming as well, because it will not just be about womanhood and news on the culture and growing pains as you climb. Spoiler alert, we are heavily anchored in finance and closing wealth gaps for the Black community and for Black women entrepreneurs specifically. And I'll get into that, but that has always been the zone of genius. That is where I come from. That is how I funded Blaze to date, by and large, through the consulting that I do to fintech companies. I sit on boards of fintechs as well, and I am standing in more courage and greater courage and swallowing fear inside of Blaze to utilize that gift and that passion unequivocally in plain sight, right, to really help and save my people. But first, I want to talk about a couple of technical things that I want you to use as a blueprint as you are leading your businesses, whether you are leading a grassroots organization, whether you're an entrepreneur that is currently solo in your business, trying to get a good idea off of the ground. Maybe you are a leader of a huge nonprofit, right? And you're really trying to bridge your vision for society with tactical, strategic things that must be done from a financial lens. I want to give you some tips and strategies today, a blueprint, if you will, to show up more powerfully, because I believe that leaders must be called in finance. I said it. Leaders must be called in finance. Why? Because when the cash runs out, time runs out, period. And we will not be able to pass generations down or pass wealth down to generations if we run out of time, because we've run out of cash. Okay. There's a stat that says 70% of Black children in the middle class will fall into the working class by the time they are 40. Why? Because sustainability of what we're building and economic ecosystems that last and sustain us do not last. 70%, 70%. So even as we climb and get there, right, 70% of our children, right, if we are to make it to the middle class, actually fall back to the working class. And so I want us to understand how to lead from a place of empowerment as it relates to financial decision making, right? And one thing that I see very often, and I've said this before in the podcast, I want to come back here and beat a dead horse on purpose, is the importance of trimming your big ideas into fundable projects. Okay? Trimming your big ideas into fundable projects. Why, Casey? Because while you are the founder and you have galaxies in your belly, like these elaborate, sophisticated plans for how you're going to change the world, and while that is true, it is paralyzing for you to dump all of that onto your VA. It is paralyzing for you to dump all of that onto the person you're trying to raise $500 from. Right? Because it is hard to believe that you will successfully peanut butter $500 across all of these things that you don't know how to prioritize. That you don't know how to sequence. That you don't know how to pause and see as building blocks that stack on top of each other through time, taking a 3-month catastrophe, right, and stretching it out to a 30-year game changer for your community, right? And so I want you to understand the importance of you taking your big ideas and breaking them down into fundable projects so that when you are going to an investor, right, or you're going to your cousin who happens to have a lot of discretionary capital that she wants to do something with, right, and you're talking about the raise, you're not trying to make her think that you can take $3,000, okay, and move the whole city of Chicago, right? What you want to do is make sure that you've identified what's next. What is the next most important thing? How can you put that into a presentation, right? How can you identify the people that need to be hired for that particular function, for that particular pilot, right? For that particular product to be developed, or that one operation in your business that is brand new, for that to be stood up, right? Who are the people that you need to hire? Right? What is the software that needs to be paid for? What is the trademark that needs to be applied for? How much do each of these things cost? And you might slice those things up into 3 different fundable projects, right? That is a lot more palatable. That is not paralyzing to your VA. They know exactly what needs to be done, and they actually have the capacity in their minds, right, to think through all of the resources that they can leverage to get that thing done. It does not mean that you stop thinking in a very grand way. It means that you heal your own relationship with time. To know that you have time to do things methodically, practically, and sustainably to make sure you build something that stands the test of time. Because if you could give the company that you came into out of college 30 years, and that's nothing to you. Yeah, in 30 years, I could be the CEO of this company. Why are you rolling up in your business giving yourself 3? I don't understand it. I don't get it. Right? So break this vision down into projects. Take this project and put it into a slide, right? Put it into a deck so you can actually see how you're laying out this concept. Flesh it out very, very well. And if you see that there are actually 3 different sub-projects inside of this one, that's powerful stuff. I want you to decouple that as well. Break that into 3 decks then, right? So that you get the reps in to understand how to execute thoughtfully and how to fund that execution in a way that does not cripple your company and traumatize your employees, right? And make you doubt yourself, right? So that it is manageable, so that you actually know how these things should be monitored, what software can monitor it, what tools you should use. You have the capacity to show up and monitor this stuff versus the 500 things you've been doing in a mediocre fashion. There's no metrics, no monitoring. Nobody is owning anything because nobody has capacity, okay, to cough, let alone, right, really flesh out this pilot and give it room to grow and develop and iterate, right? When you break your project, your vision down in a project, you can actually understand what resources are available to be allocated to these things. And then you understand what you don't have the bandwidth for. So that you can shift those things that you don't have the bandwidth for to later horizons. Which things must be next year? Which things must be 5 years out? And it's a beautiful thing because once you've developed a foundation, a base to layer that on, you don't break and cripple the whole foundation. Right? Which projects need to be up first so that you have the space to test and validate your idea? Right? And how can you use this deck instead of telling the investor that you're going to do all of the things right now? How can you shape it to say, these are the things I'm trying to figure out that I do not know yet? Building your credibility and your thoughtfulness, right? And allowing them to see how your brain thinks. How can you articulate, these are the ways that I'm going to test and validate. Every 3 months we'll do this and we'll pull up and do that. And we'll document these things and we'll put that back into the system and see what they say about that, right? That is believable. That gives you credibility. That bandwidth is important for you because if you are doing all of the things and you have no capacity, no spaciousness to thoughtfully fund these projects, to thoughtfully experiment, test, validate, improve these projects, to thoughtfully sequence these projects so that you move from strength to strength to strength, then the whole thing's collapsed. Leaders must be called in finance. And if you keep listening, I'll give you some tips often on this show about how you can fund these projects, not just through loans, because so many people go to loans and they have no idea how they're going to get that monthly payment. And if you had the monthly payment to just do this outright, right, you should just do it outright, right? So really being thoughtful, right, about what levers we pull when we go to friends and family, when we apply for grants, when we use crowdfunding, when we use accounts receivables financing. Well, instead of me waiting for 30 days for that invoice, I get a financial institution to pay me 97% of it today. And then the customer just pays them back. They don't know the difference, right? When to use term loans, when to use lines of credit, when to use credit cards, right? We'll talk about those things so that you sit in a position of power and you understand, right, the menu of options that you have at your fingertips. But first, I want you to start with understanding that you must break your problems down into projects to start and be honest with yourself about what you have the capacity for and stop scaring off the folks you're trying to raise money from. Okay? So break your projects down your problems down into projects, right? And then number 2, I want to, and I've said this a couple of times, leaders must be called in finance, right? And that's probably chilling, but I mean that. I'm going to say this like every week. There's a level of financial discipline that is crucial for business survival. Why? Because when you run out of money, you run out of time. It does not mean that your gift dies inside of you, because it won't. It's still there, right? It does not mean that you cannot come back and do it again and again and again, because you can. Every company that we see today that is thriving, that is still in existence, they've had to iterate. The leaders have had to iterate and try again and change and adapt, right? But every time they run out of money, they run out of time, right? And if you know that at the onset, right? And it doesn't mean you get it perfectly. I don't need you to get it perfectly. If you know that when you run out of money, you run out of time, you can stand today and look at the cash balance that you have and say, oh, okay, we have 3 months of operation. And it changes your decision making. It lets you know what's priority. It lets you know what to deprioritize. It lets you know what things are draining your cash unnecessarily, right? And what you have the bandwidth for. If you understand that when you run out of money, you run out of time, you know how much you want to raise. Financial discipline does not say raise enough for 10 years and you never have to look at it. Nah. Right? Financial discipline might say at all times I want 12 months of cash flow so that as we're testing and have the bandwidth of figuring it out, right? The 12 months bridges us there even if we don't make a single dime from customers. Because I know that when I run out of money, I run out of time, right? This is not a scarcity thing. This is not a thing that keep you up at night and make you cry. This is helping you understand how much money you actually need to raise, right? So that you fund it properly. Because some might say, oh, okay, well, if I know I need 12 months of runway, and I know how much money that costs me per month, this is financial discipline we're talking about, then I know how much I need to raise. Not some arbitrary number where I'm licking my finger and touching at the sky, or I'm just regurgitating something sexy I heard somebody else say. Like, I know what I'm doing over here, right? Because I'm a leader, and so I must be coded in finance. If I want 12 months of capital, just to give us time to build and test this thing and iterate this thing, right? And I know how much I need every month, and that times 12 lets me know how much I'm raising. Right? Then I can think thoughtfully about what the forms of capital are. Right? Maybe I have a highly in demand, expensive skill that might have me get into a 1-year contract with the government or a business client. Right? And I price it out to make sure that over those 12 months, that's meeting what I need inside of my business. That's a form of fundraising. That is bootstrapped revenue. That's all that is. But I don't owe them back, right? We got a value exchange, but I'm being thoughtful because I have financial discipline about how much money I need and what runway I want. Maybe I'm crowdfunding, right? Maybe it's not a 12-month stretch. Maybe I want to incubate some type of pilot for 6 months, and there's a particular person that I want to hire for that, some junior in college, right? And so how much does 6 months equal? And I'm raising that, and I'm articulating to that to them. And then once that money runs out, what happens? I run out of time. The testing on that has to be done, right? The conclusions, the work around it has to be done so that we assess and we move on to the next thing. But financial discipline is important. And in order to have discipline in finance, you must be cold. You must be able to look at it from a place of not fear, but empowerment to say, what tools are at my disposal? What menu of options do I have? How much do I want this runway to be? Do I want it to be 12 months, 18 months, 3 months, right? And every project has that type of assessment to it, right? We'll get into this week after week, but I'm just dropping these nuggets because let me see if I can do a drum roll in here. Because Blaze Group is unequivocally today a financial consulting and education firm. Yes. These skills are not dusty. Okay, I spent a decade in corporate structuring multi-billion-dollar loans for large tech companies, right? Educating hires from around the world on how to structure credit deals, how to measure and assess risk, right? How to conduct analysis, etc. I went over to Sub-Saharan Africa and I served as a chief credit officer to fund and capitalize Blaze. That's an example of bootstrap revenue, right? Chief credit officer, creating financial solutions for agripreneurs, right? Folk who were tied to agriculture, who knew how to farm land, right? Turning their tractor that we would finance into an Uber basically. So they could pull up from being directed on the app and service people's farms and make money and use that cash to pay us back, right? Did that across Kenya, Uganda, and Nigeria. Sit on the board of Kiva US, right? Not only talking about ways to mitigate risk and find more borrowers, but how do we do this responsibly in ways that are non extractive, right? In ways that don't cause harm, in ways that actually educate the folk, right? That this value creation is coming from. And so while these things have been tangential inside of Blaze, right? Or outside of Blaze, right? And it's done a lot of good. I am coming out of hiding. I've been hiding in plain sight. Me, I've been hiding in plain sight. But there's a wealth gap that exists for Black women. There's a wealth gap that exists for Black folk, right? There's a funding gap that exists in virtually all businesses because we are undercapitalized and over-mentored. Hello. And I honestly would say on the finance side, we're not over-mentored, right? Because when I go into these rooms, there are always only a few people, if that, who know finance well, right? And so we're meeting a real need. Our services include financial education, so we're partnering with grassroots organizations, nonprofits, entrepreneurial ecosystems, professional networks to come inside and teach finance. We'll keep you posted on the different events that are happening so that you can come and join as well. We're educating in the Blaze Group app. Okay, so get that app, $9.99 per subscription. To stay educated and abreast and at arm's length, fingertip away, right, from knowledge that will keep you cold, right, and fresh. And we're doing fintech consulting. I've been doing fintech consulting for a while, but definitely doing fintech consulting unequivocally inside of Blaze so that we help folks engineer solutions that are designed for us, right? That mirror back the culture that we already have, that mirror back our day-to-day activities so that there is not a learning curve for the capital that we need so that we can be successful, right? When we access capital for our business, right? And create value and repay what we need to, right? So all of that is inside of Blaze. I'm so happy about it. So happy about it. Yo, I'm so happy about it. This is a milestone, of going from strength to strength, right? We've been educating, we've been showing up, we've been loving on Black women for sure, been pulling people together. I've gotten Webby Awards and distinctions for the last 3 years in a row, have amassed a following of over 100,000 folk across social media platforms. We've educated directly over 10,000 Black women entrepreneurs, but it's not general education anymore about business. It is about finance because you must be cold. You must be cold in finance because when you run out of money, you run out of time, right? And I want you to have the financial discipline to be able to make these decisions and be good at it. You know what I'm saying? I love y'all for real. I want you to pull up to our first cash flow combos event on August the 29th. Okay. It is a virtual event for leaders, right? Black women entrepreneurs, definitely be in there. If you run some or are part of some grassroots organizations and you know that finance is a lifeline, right? And your ability to understand how to lead from a place of financial strength, how to make decisions, how to use your resources wisely is important. I want you to be there if you are in the financial industry, right? And you're thinking about how to leverage your skills for the folk who actually move our economy, right? Who are the backbones of our communities, right? Who cultivate the next generation. I want you there. So go to blazegroup.io/events, blazegroup.io/events to register for that. Okay. That's August 29th. It's happening at 6 p.m. Central. I live in Huntsville, Alabama now. So happy living around my family, y'all. And we're going to have a good time. We're going to have a good time. You'll benefit from understanding, the different ways that subscribers can use the Blaze Group app to really advance, okay, their acumen around finance, their ability to make compelling pitches, your ability to fundraise, and many other things. The app has a lot in there, so we'll demo some of that. We'll talk about some market updates, some things that are happening around you that I want you to understand, right, so that you can position your business, okay, to bend but not break, to respond appropriately to what you're seeing in the market. And we'll do some hot seat advisory, right? So if people have some on the spot questions, they can ask it and you get some real time advice, right? And others will have the benefit of listening in as well. So thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next week. See you next week. If you're not on our listserv, definitely join it. Go to blazegroup.io and sign up for our newsletter. Love and light. Thank you so much for tuning in to Blaze Group Radio. Remember, you have not yet met all of the people in your life who are going to love you. So keep going. Download the Blaze Group app for day-to-day support on your entrepreneurial journey. Until next time.